Oh my goodness. Welcome to reading. Last week, we have learned so much about text to self. We read a book and figure out how we can connect to that book. Oh, that story reminds me of that time it's about yourself. How can I connect this story to myself? This week, we're not doing text to self. We're going to be learning a new way. It's called text to text. What that means is text to text is I read a story, then I read another story, and I figure out how I connect those two stories. What do those stories remind me of? So when I read a story, I'm like, hey, that story reminds me of the story we read a couple months ago. So you have to learn how to remember stories. You could read a couple stories. Hey, that story reminds me of that story that they did here. So I'm gonna, it sounds confusing right now, but I'm gonna show you a little anchor chart to show what I'm talking about. Right here, it's called making connections. How can you make connections when you read a story? This one right here, I'm gonna go in the middle right here. Let's do, I'm gonna put a star right here. So right here is text to text to text. And do you see that text to text? Did pretty good on circling it. So text it, here's a dude, here's a little kid, he's reading a book, and then he goes here and he's thinking of the time what happens to him. Not what happens to his friends, what happens to him. Text to self, repeat with me, text to self. It reminds me of a time. It reminds me of time when I. It's about yourself. Over here is called text to text. This one right here is called text to text. Okay, that means when you read a story, you are, hey, I'm thinking about another book. It reminds me of a book. Text to text, think about it, book to book, story to story. Text is the story, the writing, okay? What we're gonna do today is I'm gonna read you a story, and when I read you that story, I want you to think, what does that story remind, what book does this remind me of? If you don't know, I'm gonna model it, so don't worry if you can't remember it. But I have the story on Mayan, and I will attach it to you, to the links, and so you can read it too. But I'm gonna read the story. Let's do share. Let's go over here. We're gonna go on Mayan. It's called Princess Addison Gets Angry. Princess Addison, I can connect to myself. I've gotten angry before, so I don't know. Let's start over. Let's read this book. Okay, I'm not getting it now, but you know what? If I don't know how it's connected now, don't worry, no rush. Read the story, a couple pages. So we're gonna sit and just read the story. By the way, that name is very long.
My mother calls me Addison. My father calls me Honey Scoop. My butlers call me Your Highness. My friends call me Addie.
Oh, they have all these different names.
But today, everyone calls me Princess Angry. And this is why.
Princess Angry? I don't know what story. Maybe I know a story. I don't know.
Every morning, I take ruffles and ribbons for a walk. We run through the garden. We dance by the fountain. We pick hundreds of flowers and carry them back to my room.
Okay.
But not today.
Oh.
Today it's raining.
Hearing her voice.
I can't walk my dogs. I can't run through the garden. I can't dance by the fountain. I can't pick flowers.
Angry. Really, really angry. Anybody thinking of a story?
I feel like crying. I feel like yelling. I feel like hitting something. I am so angry.
I think it connects to the story of text-to-text connection. Anybody thinking of a story? I remember. Let me try to figure out. This person got really angry, just like Addison over here, really, really angry.
My mother says it's okay to feel angry. She says it's okay to cry. It's okay to yell or shout. It's okay to take a break in your room. But then she reminds me that I am a princess. A princess may get angry, but a princess never hits people or breaks things. When a princess is angry, she takes a deep breath.
I got it. I now know what this story reminds me of. I now know. When Sophie gets angry, really, really angry. Do you remember that story where she roars a roar? She got so mad. She because her brother took her gorilla. She was so angry. But then she walked outside. She left the house, right? And she went into the woods and sat in a tree. And what did she do in the tree? She took a deep breath. This story reminds me of that story, text-to-text connection. She got angry, Addie got angry. They both take a deep breath, and what do they do after they take a deep breath?
She goes for a
That's
walk.
what Sophie did.
She reads a book.
Okay.
She tells someone how angry she is feeling. And soon enough, the angry feelings start to melt away. A princess knows there is always tomorrow. And tomorrow, it might not rain.
That's the story it reminds me of. I'm going to show you something. So we're going to be learning about text-to-text connection. It reminds me of a book. And what book it is, who remembers this book right here? Who remembers this book? I do. When Sophie gets angry, really, really angry. I just remember her being so angry. She looked like a dragon, had fire coming out of her mouth. She got so angry and she cried. She just cried and left. And when she left, she took a deep breath. After she took a deep breath and started breathing, she got calm. And then she went home and she was happy again. I've learned that when you take a deep breath, you get happy. But Sophie gets angry. This Princess Addison Gets Angry reminds me of another book. It reminds me of this book, When Sophie Gets Angry, Really, Really Angry. Why? Because they both got angry and they both got calm. They took deep breaths to get calm. Do you see how I can connect one story? You can't say they're both girls. Yeah, that's a way to connect. That's something similar. But you have to understand the meaning of the story. Well, in Addison Gets Angry, she gets super angry. And she had to take a deep breath, right? She got so angry, she wanted to cry. Sophie did the same thing. She got so angry and she wanted to cry. Text to text. Tomorrow, you're going to be reading a story. And just think about if you know a story that you connect to it. And then on Wednesday, you're going to read another story and you're going to figure out how they connect. Can you do that? So you're going to read a story tomorrow on Maya, and then you're going to read another story on Wednesday. And I want you to figure out how they connect, okay? And tell me why. Text to text connection. This story reminds me of a book that was about why. What does that remind you? Tell me why. Just like how we read Princess Addison Gets Angry, it reminds me of When Sophie Gets Angry, really, really angry. Put a thumbs up and kiss your brain if you understand what to do. Text to text connection. Oh, let's clear. So right here, we learned about text to self. How this reminds me of a time when now we're working on text to text. It reminds me of book. It reminds me of a text, reminds me of a book that I read before, or you just recently read. Understand? It's a cool way because you're like, hey, I remember a story. That's why it's so important to comprehend stories. I think you guys can do it. Read your story tomorrow and on Wednesday and figure out how you can connect those stories. Text to text connection. While you read at home, maybe, hey, this story reminds me of that. Practice it. It's really helpful. All right, guys, I know you can do it. I'm enjoying to hear what you guys have to say about text to text connection. Good luck. Awesome job.